Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this little card using some inks and an embossing folder and a stamp from, let's see, Technique Junkies. Anyway, here's the finished card, and you see I got a couple of little red smudges on there. Story of my life, but it's kind of a dimensional card, but not too much. Still mailable. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how I put this card together. All right, so let's get started here. First of all, I'm going to be using the Catherine Pooler Cranberry Fizz ink. And by the way, I'm not speeding up this video. This is the Canson Bristol Smooth cardstock. And I'm just going to blend, and I want to blend the whole page. And pretty dark. I like this Cranberry Fizz color. I really am loving these Catherine Pooler inks on this particular paper especially. And so I just blending it in, getting it pretty dark. I can tell that I'm going to need a re-inker for this guy because I've been ripping through this for holiday cards. I haven't even played with the greens yet, so give me time, I will. So, and I'm not worried about one edge because I'm going to be trimming it down, so I'm going to just kind of go not too heavy on that one edge. That's the side that I will trim. And just get that ink spread on there really well. And so that side is considered wet, right? I'm going to go ahead and clean up my little mess here, and I'm going to go ahead and smoosh it onto a card that I'm kind of hanging on to, and I'll just wipe up the rest because it takes too long. So once I got that mess cleaned up, because this is how I get red fingerprints if I don't clean up my mess. And red, yeah. So I've got this embossing folder. My friend Abraham sent this to me, and it's the little cathedral one. I think it's really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and spritz the other side of this paper. And I can tell you right now, this paper does not emboss that well with these 3D. You know, when you're supposed to go 3 times, it really cracks a lot, which is okay because I have a fix for that. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through my Vagabond. I really like a lot of these embossing folders to make cards, you know, with multi-dimensions and different kinds of patterns and things like that. So once I've got that running through, it's taking forever, sorry about that. I'll go ahead and pull it and make sure my surface is dry, and you can see there's a lot of cracks in there. That's okay because I have a plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my splat box. And I'm going to lay out my card here, and I'm going to take this peppermint stick distressed mica stain. I'm going to shake it really good the wrong way because that's how I shake them. And I'm going to just go ahead and douse this thing. And this, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it leaves kind of a gold sheen to it. It is so pretty. I absolutely love the gold. And so what I want to do now is I want to get it dry, right? And I don't want to dab it because I don't want to lift any of that ink. I want it all to sink into those little cracks and crannies. So you see, now that it's dry, you can kind of see the gold in it. I just love that gold. And it really does well on top of the cranberry colored ink because, you know, if you tried to spray the whole thing and use your whole bottle. So once I've got that dried, I'm just going to pull it out of my splat box and put that aside. And yes, I used that box as a splat box. It doesn't have tall sides, but if any of you have seen pictures of my craft room, it's pretty sloppy. Doesn't that look neat? I love that. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and grab my guillotine trimmer here, and I'm going to trim this down to 4 by 5 1/4. Because I'm going to mount it on a 5.5 by 4 1/4 card base. So I'm just trimming a bit off of each edge so that it's all nice and even there. I'll get those pieces out of my way. Just kind of straighten out the paper a little bit. Now I'm going to grab another piece of this cardstock, and I am going to, this is actually the Accent Opaque in the 120 pound. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be embossing these stars and in gold. So first I'm going to color the background again, just as far as I need in the Cranberry Fizz. And I'm not being particular. You can see the difference on how the ink blends on the paper though. This being the Accent Opaque 110 pound. It does tend to grab and suck the ink up a little bit more, which isn't always good when you're trying to blend. But it blends out just fine. I'm good with it. And I'm just blending enough that I can do the stars, the falling stars. And I'm going to clean up my mess here. I'm just going to wipe it off. And I'm going to flip the card over. And I'm going to take my little Delicata golden Glitz, and I'm just going to swipe it across here because this is where I'm going to do my sentiment. So I might as well not waste the paper, right? And what I want to do is I want to make sure that's really, really dry. And through the magic of I already did one, here's one that's already dry. So what I want to do is I want to get out my stamping platform. And well, first I'm going to test and make sure that it's completely dry, and it's not. So I'll probably give it a little bit of a dry, just a little bit, not too much because I don't want to warp this paper. And I'm already going to be embossing it, but it doesn't warp as easily as others because it's a thicker paper. I just want to make sure that ink is good and dry. And that's one I did, I don't know, a few minutes ago. And sometimes, I mean, you can touch it and you can't really tell if it's wet or not, so that's why you run that test. And the gold is a pigment, so it takes longer to dry. And I'm just going to get the back side too a little bit, just kind of even things out. There we go. Test it again. And I just test it with my clear embossing powder. All right, I'm happy. Looks like it's good. So now I'll get out my stamping platform, and because the Technique Junkie Falling Stars is a red rubber stamp, I will be using my Tim Holtz Rock and Roll platform, and I'm going to be embossing in gold tinsel. So I'm getting all my embossing things ready to go, and I'm heating up my heat tool in the background. That's one thing I like about voiceovers, is you don't have to hear that. So I'm going to lay my card in here, and I'm going to lay it, move my magnets, and I'm going to lay it right on the line there, so that if it does move on me, you know, if I have to stamp more than once, I have the right position to put it back, and it is flat down against the bottom. I'm going to pull out this stamp. This is such a cool little stamp set. I love that whole release. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball where I want it. You know, I'll most likely be trimming a lot of it off, but, you know, I want to make sure that I get all of it in the red. And I'm going to take my gold ink, and I'm going to use my scrapbook.com, which is also a pigment ink. And I'm going to stamp it onto this little stamp. And I like to do gold on gold because that way, if any has like little bald areas, it's still gold in the background. I don't know how many of you get bald areas, but I do all the time. I don't know if I tap it off too hard, or exactly I don't get enough ink. Just wipe up that little bit of mess over there, because that's a disaster waiting to happen. It happens anyway, but you know, it is what it is. I can see the little gold stars. I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a press here. There we go. I'm happy with that. Let me just move this aside real quick. And I'm going to grab my little embossing powder tray and my gold tinsel embossing powder and just dump it on. Tap off the excess fairly lightly. I don't want that gold glittery stuff going everywhere. And if a little, you know, if there's little extra specks here and there, it's fine. It's a golden, you know, star tinsel thing. Tinsel gets everywhere, doesn't it? I don't think anybody uses real tinsel anymore. I remember as a kid growing up, loving to put the tinsel on the tree and just taking handfuls of it and throwing it in big old bundles. You know, while my mom would be neatly putting one or two pieces here or there, I'm just throwing it everywhere. But I think there's an environmental thing with it, maybe. I don't know. But people don't tend to use it too much anymore. But we've always got glitter and glitter embossing powder, so that's something. So I'm just going to get this good and embossed. And that gold looks so pretty next to that Cranberry Fizz. Man, oh man, I love that. And I will be, of course, trimming that off as well. Want to kind of cool it down and tap off any excess that might be there, because I do see some falling. And then I am going to use my Cranberry Fizz, and I'm going to use my favorite little Merry Christmas stamp. And this is from a sentiment stamp from Unity Stamp Company. And you guys see me using it a lot because it reminds me of Rae Dunn, and I like the simplicity of it. And I'm going to ink it up real good, but I'm going to wipe off that excess off the top, because if I'm me, I'm going to accidentally rock it right onto my surface, and I don't want to. So just going to find a spot, because I'm going to be using this whole strip. And just kind of lay it down. Just give it a little bit of a gentle rock, not too much. Put my lid on right away because it's red. And I'll just kind of hold that in so it soaks in. And then quickly lift up. And there I've got my Merry Christmas. And I am going to emboss that with some clear embossing powder, just to make sure it sets and it doesn't smear. And to give it just a little bit of dimension and shine. And so I've got to grab my tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just emboss that real quick. It doesn't take too long for that small area, and my embossing gun was already hot. So I need to get a new one, I think. This one I've had for a couple of years now. It's getting pretty messy because I used to use it to dry my paint projects. That's why I bought it before I ever started card making. So this is just a little stencil brush that I like to use to brush off the excess embossing anti-static powder. So now I've got that brushed off. I'm going to go ahead and do my cuts here. And I want this strip to be, I want it to just go below the stars. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball it and measure it out where I like it and make sure it's straight. And then I'm going to cut it down to 4 inches, because that's how wide my card panel is, my background panel. So I'm just trimming it off on each side. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just trim these right to the edge. There we go. There I've got my falling stars, my raining stars. And then I've got to chop off my Merry Christmas. And I'll have some extra red to work with later on something else. And the Merry Christmas is going to go all the way across as well. So I'm going to cut it just below the sentiment. And just make sure that it's evenly spaced top and bottom. Okay, liking that. So now all we got to do is put this bad boy together. I do want to edge the both of these so that there's no white core showing through on the sides, because I will be popping this up. So I just take my brush and I just dip it in the Cranberry Fizz and just kind of swipe it along the edges so that they are red as well. And it doesn't really darken any edges because I'm trying to avoid getting it directly on the card, just keeping it towards the edge. And I believe this is where I got the red fingerprint because I can see the red on my finger. Oh my gosh, I'm such a sloppy crafter, I'm telling you. It just, I mean, you get in the zone and it's like, you forget that there are just these little details, like maybe you got a little bit of red ink on your finger and you're going to be working with the gold piece next. Duh. But it is what it is. It's, you know, we all have our thing. I know a lot of crafters who are really nice and neat and they never make a mess, and I don't know how that happens. Okay, there's me at least trying to wipe my hands off. And I want to edge this one as well. And I'm just going to take that little ink pad and run it along there. Now, after I filmed this video later, just a few minutes ago, I got my mail and I got my big pad of gold and my re-inker, so I'm not worried about running out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a card base, and I'm just going to grab a white card base, 4 1/4 by 5.5 card base. And what I want to do is I want to actually color the edges of it, so as if it were a piece of colored cardstock, because I don't want to use a whole piece of gold. I'm just going to take some mint tape and I'm going to cover this back edge right here. So if you ever get cards from me and the inside is messy, you know why now, because probably my craft mat is still a little dirty and I don't see it. So I'm just going to take this little cube of gold ink and just kind of ink to paper here along the edges so that I've got a gold card base. Mostly gold. White inside. And I'm just kind of swiping that on to kind of even it out. And then I'll pull off my mint tape. Nothing up my sleeve, and presto, I have gold. And I'm going to take a little piece of that tape that isn't dirty and put it in a roll to close that up so I can glue everything on straight. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to take some actual wet glue and I'm going to glue that down. I'm not going to pop it up or anything. It's just going to go straight to the card base. And again, using my reptile glue, so you can see where it's cracked in the back and where some of the red leaked through. That's okay, because nobody's ever going to see that. So I think going forward, I'll probably try just running through once, but you can't get that really good 3D effect running through once. Maybe you can on this paper, we'll find out. But putting that mica stain on there just covered all that up no problem and gave it kind of just a little bit of a rustic look. Cheater, that's me. And I'm just gonna lay my little acrylic block on top of this for a minute to kind of just make sure that it glues down nice and even. And that's how this is gonna look. I'm just thinking about how I'm gonna put it together. And I need to trim off the Merry Christmas because I should have glued it down already and folded the edges over, but I don't really want to fold the edges into that textured surface. So let me just put my block back, and now that's down nice and flat. And I am going to pop this up. No, yeah, I am going to pop that up so that the Merry Christmas kind of slides up underneath it. So I'm just going to grab some foam tape here, and I see gold ink. Do you see the gold ink? I'm going to get that on the back of the card, I promise you, because I didn't see it when I was working over there. Oh my gosh. You know, I have to show you guys my fumbles and faux pas because, you know, I don't want people to think that I'm some sort of professional, because I'm not. I'm just a person that has fun. So I'm going to keep these both towards the center because I want to leave that edge open so that I can a little bit tuck that little gold strip underneath. So I'm just going to lay that down, and I'm just going to pull off the tape, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on there so I have some wiggle room, and so that I can ensure that it sticks to that bumpy surface. And I'll tell you, the first thing I do is I put it on upside down. So that's another good reason to have this extra glue, because I was able to pull it up and put it the right way. Because I decide that I'm going to turn the card upside down so that it's closer to me and I can see it. But I'm not paying attention here. See, there I go, putting it on upside down. I get it on there. Tap it, just press it lightly. And then I flip the card over and realize the stars are upside down. Whoops. Wait a minute. Oh. Okay. See? Ah, thank goodness it pulled up. The glue didn't get a chance to dry. So I just flip that around and fix it. And then I'm gonna decide on how my Merry Christmas is gonna look. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim that down to 4 inches total so that fits on. Let me just get this out of the way so I can get my trimmer out. I'm trying to figure out when I got the red fingerprints on there. Probably, yep, I see it there. Nope, I didn't get them on there yet. I don't know how I did that. God's me. Go ahead and trim this side. And there may have been some red ink still kind of damp on my trimmer that I didn't notice. And I gotta redo the edges there because I forgot to trim it before I did the edges. And just gonna pick this up, lay the card down, and I'm gonna use liquid glue, and I'm gonna glue it directly down to the card. So you've got that little popped up dimension, and this just kind of tucks right underneath. Little happy sentiment, sentiment. And just make sure it's on there nice and straight. There we go. Pretty easy, but pretty elegant. There's the red fingerprint. Whoever gets this card, they better love me. So it's basically 1, 2, 3 dimensions. A step down. We got a top step, a medium step, and the bottom step that is textured. So let me go ahead and grab some. I'm gonna grab my favorite gold honeybee. They're golden light, I think. Holeless sequins. I'm not going to put a bunch on, but I just want a couple. I just want a little bit of an extra kick, bling, bling. So I'm looking for my glue, looking for my pencil. There's my glue sitting right in front of me, and I can't see it. I'm telling you. And I've got my little wax pencil, and I'm just going to pick up a couple of these and just sort of place them where I think I want them. And one more. I'm just gonna do 3. I decide later I really don't like them in the little cathedral thingies. It just doesn't work for me. So I'm gonna put them put one right next to the other on this side, and then I don't like that top one hanging out all by itself either, so I'm just gonna lay it over on this other side. Just keeping it simple. And I like to tap off my glue. When I've been using it, it gets a little gloopy around the top. So I like to tap it off so that gloop doesn't get in the way of laying down a teeny tiny dot. And there we go. We've got a pretty quick and easy Christmas card. All gold and red and shiny and glittery. Well, guys, I hope you like this video. If you do, consider giving me a thumbs up. And I'm just going to go ahead and lay some weight on here so that this lays down flat, because it's a little bumpity. I want to lay down flat. So there we go. So yeah, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you like what you see, you can hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to be notified, just hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day.